And I'll write down, now, since our secretary is home, Mr. Pappy, are you going to take the minutes? Okay, thank you. Thank you. So we're starting at 7:03. Okay, so do you have anyone have any comments ahead of time, or should we just, Mr. Medancy?
So I want to thank the board for waiting till this evening, because as you know, one of the reasons we did this was to make sure before voting tonight there was nothing unforeseen in the governor's budget today. While I wish there was more relief in the budget, it's important to note today is essentially the first day of the real legislative session. The real work starts now. It'll go to appropriations, and then the volleying will begin. But with that said, as much as I wish there was more relief, there was nothing in there that scared me enough to say we're going to need to worry about X in terms of some sort of large unfunded mandate. So I think, based on that, the information you have, reviewed as part of the proposed budget during the workshops is the most up-to-date and accurate information we have. So thank you.
Okay. Then I will entertain a motion.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to accept the superintendent's budget as submitted to the Board of Education.
We need the number included on it, Mrs. Carmen?
I'm sorry, I don't have it.
Okay, we'll get it for you.
I don't have my glasses either.
Okay.
I have to read the number,
Here.
Colleen?
Yeah, you do. You have to read the actual number that's,
Say, I don't know how to read the number. Move to approve the Board of Education's operating budget for 25-26 in the amount of $123,614,448 for a budget increase of 6.6%.
Second.
is there any discussion?
I guess,
Yeah.
I guess if it's appropriate, is there any update? I know that it sounds like there's no, foreseen mandates coming down or whatever. Has there been any more discussion on ECS funding and the outlook there?
Sure. So in the governor's proposed budget today, we're actually projected to get $260,000 less in education cost share funding. That's a projection right now, but there is legislation to add weight to the education cost share formula for students identified in special education. So if that passes, that will certainly shift the number in our favor, because that's a number that's not accounted for. In addition to that, there's two ECXSs, there's education cost share and then there's excess cost, which is more excess cost reimbursement. But there are several bills out there right now. I know I shared with you one bill that I went to Hartford on Monday to speak on behalf of, but I'm also working closely with members of our delegation and the Education Committee on a couple proposals that could also, bring some support to the district from the state level. But at the end of the day, we've tried on these types of bills for several years now, and they haven't come to fruition. The one source of optimism I have is that there were 17 different bills introduced by both Republicans and Democrats at the state level to fix the excess cost problem at the state level. And when 17 people in a bipartisan format are supporting legislation, there's a good chance that that'll get addressed.
So, obviously, we know the timing of everything, right? The board we have to move, so we have to get our budget to the town, so that way the Board of Finance, and then they'll take the look at ours plus the town's budget and make their recommendation. Obviously, as the governor's budget kind of becomes more firm and we start to, get a better feel for what's in it, we'll be working in coordination with workshops with the Board of Finance at the town, obviously, to be able to provide additional input if there are factors that change. And
Yeah, if we have anything reliable, the challenge even with the town, we've talked about this for years, is our budget at the town is in front of the state timeline. So the town council acts on our budget, on the town budget, and ultimately our budget, prior to the state taking any action on the governor's budget or what the final state budget will be. So we won't know until after our budget process if there's any legislation in there that is going to come to fruition and offer us any relief.
Anyway, Mr. Jaranowski.
I think we talked earlier and kind of, you had asked if I had identified anything. And I just wanted to make it known that I didn't spend 3 days straight, but over 3 days I spent a fair amount of time going through almost every line item And I had a couple questions, one you already answered, you know, the electricity. But a couple other ones was the contract refuge. That was I mean, when you're talking $120 million budget, a $6,700 increase really doesn't amount to much. But it's over what we've spent last year. You know, it's like an 8% increase.
Sure, I can address that. Our contract ends this coming June with the trash removal service, and a year from now, for the 26-27 year, there's talk of legislation for organic recycling and different requirements related to that. So we reached out to our current vendor to obtain a price to extend our contract for 1 year while the legislation works through what's going to be required on the recycling for the organics. And that will give us time to put a bid together to go back out. So we haven't signed an extension with them at this point, but we're forecasting based on their information that they shared with us that it would be about an 8% increase for the trash.
Okay, fair enough. You know, when you had called, I didn't have my book in front of me. And it was let's see, the supply, I noticed that the oil heat went down by $10,000.
Again, we were able to lock into a price. That one we did lock in to a firm price for the new year. And based on the overseas
Electric.
activity from the previous year, we were able to have some savings on that line.
Okay. Other than that, I tried. I really tried. But I really can't see anything other than taking things away from students, and that's not in my plan.
Okay. Any, Mr. Carson?
The superintendent, in the state budget presentation or discussion, is there any hope that we're going to receive 100% reimbursement for our excess cost? Or are we going to continue to struggle with that with the current outlook as we have in years past? I think last year was 62%.
Yeah. So I always go into it with hope, and that's why I try so hard, you know, working up there to see if we can't move the needle. Is there optimism that we're going to get full funding? No.
Okay. Well, and that's, I think that's important, right? Is kind of, we know our status quo and we can look back at history, but, you know, having to project and plan, you know, for the future, it would be nice to, you know, the way educational funding works is to rely on and plan for 100% reimbursement. But yeah, it seems like every year we have the same discussion, and here we are again.
Indeed, we are.
We don't get 100% reimbursement for regular ed.
Yeah.
And I know special ed is unique in its own makeup. But did I misinterpret what was written, that in the governor's budget, it was a $40 million increase for special ed?
So it's not until fiscal year 2027, so there's no added funding for fiscal year 26. And the $14 million that he's proposing, $10 million of it is to incentivize special ed funding. I argued and actually spoke directly with the governor, it shouldn't be just to incentivize, it should be to incentivize and maintain. Because I think districts that already have it, there's not an incentive
Yeah.
to create it because you already have it. But so where's, you know, that's, to me, I don't think that's fair to the districts that have done their due
We
diligence.
get penalized for doing the right thing.
Yeah.
10
The
Early
years.
on,
4
yeah.
million that you'll hear about too is only for capital. And so if you need to renovate spaces for special learning programs, those would be capital. So they're both going to be competitive, the 10 million and the 4 million, so there's no guarantees anybody gets any of that. And sometimes with competitive grants, I think we're at a disadvantage for several reasons. And the 40 million is really just scratches the surface for what they truly need to add in order to rectify the shortfall that we keep experiencing. I was asked that question Monday during the press conference. You know, what can we get for 40 million? And I talked about really relief for our staff who their caseloads are higher, you know, the strain on the student supports, if you will, right? We're at capacity. And then they said, is it enough? And here I am at this press conference, you know, and it's the governor's show, not mine. But I had to speak honestly. And I said, any investment is better than what we've been getting. But I think we still want full funding, and we're going to continue to advocate for that. And that was my answer to the press on Monday.
So it's, putting a budget together on hope really doesn't ever work, right? And I think we did the right thing waiting this year. We did the right thing waiting last year. I said, but the problem is, and this is where I think with this concept of maybe getting these towns together to rally, to lobby, whatever you want to call it. I mean, what you did is very important in that moving forward with the special education. But if the state is supposed to fund it 100%, and they don't, it's like if I get a bill and I don't pay my bill at 100%, but I don't then get in trouble for that. So if that's the case, that would be a great way of managing finances at home. It just doesn't work that way. So the problem is that's what we got. That's the hand we're dealt with. Hopefully at some point, if we can get towns together that will put up that argument and make the state do what they're supposed to do, that would be great. Unfortunately, I think like everyone else, we all went through this book, and there's nothing in this book. There's nothing to cut. There's nothing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you'd like to add, but there's no money for it. 6.6 sounds like a lot. I think when you look at the previous years and where we've been and how we've fallen behind a bit here and there along the way, this is, in my opinion, this is a level service, maybe not quite, but it's a level service budget. I don't see any other option but to pass it the way that it is at this point, and hope that it continues to pass through the town as this goes forward. I don't know, when there's nothing in there, there's nothing new, there's nothing added, and pretty much the majority of it is pay and benefits, which, by the way, people always say, well, you're paying them too much, or cut the benefits. We're not paying them too much. We're not providing overly rich benefits. In fact, the benefits changed dramatically over the last several years to the point where it used to be very rich benefits for the educators. It's not there anymore. It's high option, high deductible plans. Some people like them, some people don't. They're not, well, we'll leave my opinion out, but it's a very different type of a plan than they used to have. And if you don't pay competitive wages, and I don't even know if we're still competitive, quite frankly, for the state of Connecticut, but if you don't pay competitive wages, you don't keep educators. And to keep turning and turning and turning isn't the way to run a district, in my opinion. So I'm in favor of this budget. I hope it passes, and I think we need to stand with you going forward. And we've offered this to you in the past. Bring us with you. Bring us to the schools. Bring us to the parent meetings. Bring us wherever you need us to go to help explain why we need this budget, why a 6.6% budget increase is not excessive, and what it actually gives and what it doesn't give. So I'm sure we'd all be willing to stand with you side by side to say we're in support of this.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Clark?
Yes.
I want to thank you, Steve, because I heard from several people what an excellent job you did meeting with the governor. I didn't get to see you on television, and I would have asked for your autograph had I. But I understand that you really did defend and explain to the legislators that were there why we needed that special ed money, and you did an excellent job. So thank you for that. That's very, very important. I hope we can do that publicly here in Southington. Have you, be the speaker for us. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Where I live, there's a lot of over 55, and we'll leave it at that. And they know I'm on the board. And a couple of them have cornered me, what they've read in the paper over the last few days about this new courses that we're going to be offering at the high school.
Oh, okay.
And the question is, well, how much is that going to cost us? And I said, it's not going to cost us anything. everything is in place. So there's no added cost. He goes, well, where are you gonna place it? And I said, listen, that's, you know, you're getting into the weeds that we don't even get into. You know, they'll find a spot for it. It's not gonna cost us anymore. And I think it's making sure that we have students educated for the future. That's our job. And they said, well, what's the budget look like? And I said, well, we're near the end. I didn't have a number that I threw at her. But she said, well, you people, all you do is ask for money. And I said, well, that's basically our job, okay? We have to fund the programs that we're obligated to teach, as well as those to enhance the opportunities for the kids. He goes, well, every year, that's all you keep doing is asking for more and more and more. The bucket's gonna run dry. And I said, well, unfortunately, that's how it is. Says if you can come up with a way either to reduce the trend and have, prices come down and have costs come down, we could probably do something. I said, why don't you run for the board? Oh, I don't have time for that. But she's got plenty of time to complain.
Mr. Darrenowski, you could always cut your board salary, and then,
I gotta remember that one. I gotta remember that one, that's good.
But this is where we need to help and be
Yeah.
there and support and make people understand, help people understand how this process works. It's not drunken sailor spending, right? It's not excessive spending. Our job is to educate the students. I mean, and then it's up to the town, other boards, to determine how important education is to the town of Southington, to our students, to their future, to the town, right? We see about, we saw what happened to the grand list, right? The education system brings people into the town, brings business into the town, helps those things grow. If you start going backwards and you start cutting your education system, you start cutting your budget, it has a debilitating effect on our town, let alone the future of our students. So, I mean, that's our job, right? We need to be out there, and please, bring us with you.
Yeah, thanks, Madam
right.
Chair. So I guess, again, just kind of going over, echoing some of what's already been said, but also just kind of reminding everybody, salary and benefits and transportation are $7.2 million of this budget. It's 6.3% right off the top, right? We know that the health insurance is the highest driver of this entire budget. It rose 16% this year. $3 million of that increase is solely off of health insurance alone. You look at what's left, it's, what, $400,000? That's literally the rest. That's the rate of inflation for everything else in this book would cost you more than that. So obviously, there's been additional cuts that have been made. The right decisions are being made. I agree, we absolutely have to continue to push this. I do believe, and this is my own opinion, I do believe that there is a education affordability problem in the state of Connecticut. It's a real challenge. I don't know how we can think that taxpayers are gonna be, local taxpayers are gonna be able to carry the burden of these increases year over year over year. And it's a real problem.
Sure.
So we need legislators and everybody to work with us and help be a part of that solution. But again, right, we have to continue to make sure we're providing the right services to our students. It's our job to take care of our town, our families. And again, that's what I believe this budget does. So I support it. It's frustrating, but it is where we are, so.
Agreed. Okay, Mr. Pepe, I'm going to ask you to do a roll call vote, please, and Mr. Bijewski is on with us. Mr. Bijewski, you're still with us?
I am still with you.
Okay.
Mr. Darrenowski,
Yes,
Mrs. Carmody,
Yes.
Mr. O'Shana,
Yes.
Mr. Bajewski,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
yes.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark.
Yes. Motion passes 8-0. Thank you all. I would like to say something. I'd first like to thank our administration for their work presenting us with a comprehensive budget that meets the needs of all our students in our schools. And to my fellow board members, I know each of you has spent time, energy, effort, reviewing, analyzing this budget, because you take this job seriously, what we do here. And I want to publicly thank you all for your work. So thank you. And while I realize this budget has we're facing many economic challenges in the state, in our community. With this budget, we do meet the commitment to provide high-quality education that the town of Southington, our students, and our families expect, and more importantly, deserve. So I want to thank you all, everyone, administrators that are here, everyone who has contributed to this process. I want to say thank you. So I will entertain.
Can I make one comment before we close?
No.
Just really quick.
All right.
I'm proud of the fact that it's been several years, but we had a unanimous vote. This board unanimously voted for this budget. It's the way it should be. We worked hard to get to this point, and I'm just proud of being a member of this board tonight, that this board was able to
Have
vote
unanimous vote,
unanimously
which is
to
wonderful.
move this budget forward, so.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Darrenowski?
One little quirk here. I'm not sure how or why, but I did receive something in the mail yesterday from CABE. And it's a 30-year pin. It's my third one. I've been getting one every year for the last 3 years. And it's a 30-year pin. So
It's 90.
That's 90 years, Mr. Darrenowski. Have you really been on the board for 90 years?
34.
34 years. Good for you.
But,
Okay, I didn't.
I'll look
realize
into that for you.
How long have we been, Colleen?
Don't ask, don't even ask, Mrs. Guy. 18.
yeah, you're not that far behind me.
No, I'm not, but that's
Move
okay.
to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, all.
18 years.
Oh, Mr. Brown! Oh, Mr. Brown! Bob Brown just showed up, Joe.
Missed it by like 2 minutes.
Oh, Bob. Huh?
I hope you weren't speeding.
No, we can't go back into session. Hey, thanks for being on the line. Go back to bed.
books as an 8-0.
Thanks, I'll talk to you. Okay, bye.
Unanimous.
It's unanimous.
Could have been 9.
It would have been 9. Oh, my.
I was gonna say, goes in the books is a nice try.
Well done. Well done.
I said, I was in Hartford.